Hello, everyone. Jill Delaney coming to you from Delaney Stables Live in the Northeastern United States. Today we'll be talking about the sport of TREC with a general introduction to orienteering. A big thank you goes out to the many photographers in China that let us use these photos to develop the sport of TREC in the United States and abroad. The sport of TREC is a three-phase competition that has its cornerstone phase in orienteering. Orienteering is when you travel across the country with your partner, the horse, on a planned route with your map, your compass, and your watch. The two supporting phases are obstacles and control of paces. Tonight we will be talking about orienteering and control of paces. The orienteering phase has the most weight with 240 points. The control of paces phase has two sections in which you can score up to 30 points each. The obstacle phase will have 16 obstacles in it out of 32 possible obstacles. So in orienteering is defined by the International Governing Organization as concisely following a 30 to 50 kilometer long route that corresponds to a marking they have discovered and transcribed 20 minutes before their departure. Stage and route checkpoints, whose locations are unknown by the competitors, are hidden throughout the route. These checkpoints' purpose is to check on the competitor's time of route, the accuracy of the route taken, as well as the horse's welfare with veterinary controls. Riders must abide by an imposed speed between 6 and 12 kilometers per hour. Good knowledge of topography enables the rider to predict the horse's effort and to manage progression. Much information can be found about the international competitions at www.fidi-net.org. However, today we're going to be focusing more on the national levels, which is governed by US NETO, and their information can be found at www.trec-usa.org. And at the national levels, we consider the terrain and the level of the competition. The scoring is the same for both national and international levels, with it being able to go into the negative numbers up to 240 points. At the national levels, our lowest distance traveled would be 5 kilometers instead of 30 kilometers, and it goes up to 50 kilometers. And the time will be set according to the terrain and the level of competition. So what this breaks down to is that the orienteering phase is a timed exercise that has a planned route over varying terrain. Along the way, there will be checkpoints to confirm your accuracy with route and speed. These checkpoints are unknown to the competitor until they arrive at them, and there are basically two types of checkpoints. A route checkpoints make sure that you are on the correct route, but they can also be put on the incorrect route. Stage checkpoints include a hold of at least 5 minutes. If there's a veterinary control to happen, which generally happens at the upper levels, the hold will be at least 15 minutes. At the lower levels, organizers may allow competitors to go out in pairs or small groups with a pre-printed map. However, at the higher levels, the competitors always go out individually with a map that they transpose themselves from an original in a map room just before the phase starts. No electronic gadgets are allowed on any phase of a TREC competition. So at the national levels, we have level 1 through 4. The lower levels have shorter courses with less demanding speeds. The maps are more appropriate for beginners, green horses, or casual riders. And again, the riders may be allowed to go out in pairs or small groups for the orienteering phase. When you get up to the upper levels, the phases become more challenging in both distances and speeds, requiring greater skills and fitness levels to compete. and riders go out alone. So what that looks like for the national levels is that at level 1, the distance will be between 5 and 12 kilometers per hour with mostly clear landmarks, and it will be designed for horse safety, fitness, and control. At level 2, the ante gets up a tiny bit, with the distances being between 12 and 20 kilometers, and it includes introductory challenges using landmarks and contour lines on your maps and introducing compass use. The pace is moderate and the distance becomes a slight factor. At level 3, you'll be traveling between 20 kilometers and 35 kilometers. You'll need to have mastered your compass and start to be able to really read the terrain on your topo maps. The pace will vary more, and pace and distances start to become a key factor. Whereas at level 4, the distances will be 35 to 50 kilometers. You need to be able to use your compass well, and you need to have competency with more advanced skills like azimuths and grid reference tests. The pace will vary, and the calculations for figuring out distance will become critical. So, in the USA, we're used to using miles. What is a kilometer compared to a mile? A kilometer is 0.6214 miles. So at the lowest level, the 5 kilometers will be a little over 3 miles. And at the highest level, 50 kilometers will be no more than 31.1 miles. The competitor's outfit for orienteering is free choice, but must be appropriate for riding across the country. The organizer or ground jury may allow you to not go out, to not start this phase, if you are wearing inappropriate clothing or you have ill-suited equipment for your horse. The wearing of an approved safety helmet is mandatory when mounted while on the event grounds, so not just during competition. And all competitors must wear the number vest provided by the organizer. For your horse, the tack and equipment, a saddle is mandatory, but it can be any style, which is one of the really, really cool things about this sport. English, Western, endurance, doesn't matter as long as you have a saddle, because bareback pads are not permitted. The headgear is also mandatory: bridle, head collar, hackamore, bitless, with a bit. The bit's the rider's choice, but they need to have a headgear of some sort. And the only other training aid that is permitted is the running martingale. So, for example, standing martingales or draw reins are not permitted. Also, during the orienteering phase, you will need a trail pack. The trail pack required equipment is rider and horse identification, and you might want to have this on yourself as well as your horse in case you get separated. A halter and a lead rope, high visibility reflective gear and or safety lights, a hoof boot or farrier kit if your horse is shod in case they lose a shoe, and a first aid kit for horse and rider. This kit must have in it at least 6 sterile swabs, 1 pair of round-ended scissors, 1 elasticized bandage like vet wrap, 1 disinfectant or antiseptic solution bottle, and no injectable products are allowed. They're strictly prohibited. So for optional equipment, food and water for yourself or your horse, a whistle, pens, paper, glasses, magnifier, whatever you might need for personal comfort. A flashlight or a headlamp of some sort is useful if you get stuck out after dark. And weather-appropriate clothing for yourself and to protect your maps. As mentioned, horses may compete shod or unshod. If shod, they must remain shod for the whole of the orienteering phase or have a lost shoe replaced with a hoof boot. If ridden in hoof boots, they must remain in hoof boots for the whole of the orienteering phase. At upper level competitions, whether your horse is shod or not will be noted at the preliminary veterinary inspection. And losing a shoe or hoof boot without correction incurs penalty points of minus 10 points when you enter your checkpoint. So the tools, the compass. 3 types of compasses, all quite similar here. Some of them have longer base plates. All of these are acceptable. You may not have a compass that has any sort of GPS in it. So if Jarmaine watch is what you wear, you will need to not wear that for competition. And the watch is the same way. Analog or digital watches are allowed, but they may not have step counters or GPS in them. Nothing that would talk to a computer or an iPad. So no GPS is allowed, period, and this includes everything that might contain GPS, smartwatches, smartphones, GPS units, any other gadget of positioning you in the world. And if you are found to have access to a device that has the GPS capabilities, you will be disqualified. So we do want to keep you safe, and if you have a mobile phone that you want to take with you for safety reasons, that's totally okay. But you have to declare it before the start of the phase, and the officials will put it into a sealed bag. And the only acceptable reason for that seal to be broken without disqualification is calling in an emergency to management. So the topographic map. A topographic map with a scaled grid overlay will be the base map. The finished competition map includes a starting point, the route, directional arrows, and a finish line. At the lower levels, an organizer may provide the topographic map with the pre-printed route on it already. At the upper levels, the competitor will be given a topographic map without the route, as they will be required to transpose that route themselves. The organizer provides the map. A scale of 1 to 25,000 is what's supposed to be used, but sometimes printers print differently, so beware those deviations. And at the lower level, this is a map that you might get. It has contour lines, the squiggly things. It has the square grid overlay, and those are the minimum requirements. This one has also blue for water, white for fields, and green for more forested areas. It also happens to have road names on it, which you probably won't get. And if you were being handed this map for a lower level competition, your route might look like this. The parking spot where they'd like you to park, the start and the directional arrows so you know which direction to go in, and then the finish line would be at the road. Again, this is just an example. There's many variations that could be out there. That concludes our general introduction to orienteering for the sport of TREC. My name's Jill Delaney, Delaney Stables at www.delaneystables.com. If you have any questions or comments, you're welcome to email me at delaneystables@gmail.com. Again, thanks so much to those Chinese photographers, and we appreciate you joining us today. Have a great day.